Okay, welcome everyone.
Hi, Julien. Hi, Dawn.
Hi,
Hi, Steve. Hi,
hi
Julien.
Steve. Hi Dawn.
Welcome, everyone,
Welcome everyone in the chat room.
yeah, our very first show, the Exploring the New Age, the interviews, and we listened to your comments, everybody, and you're tired of hearing Julien and I talk all the time. So now we brought in a guest. We're starting a whole new round, so you don't have to listen to our voices all the time. But we're really excited and very happy and honored to have as our first guest tonight Steve Beckow, the mastermind behind the Golden Age of Gaia blog, and Julien and I have both been following your work for quite some time now, and we're very grateful for you to join us on our first show, so we can get to know you a little bit better. And
congratulations on your first show.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. And of course, we're really interested in other people getting to meet you who have not heard about you or what you're up to. So,
Thank you.
Sort of like welcome you to the people who normally follow us.
Thank you.
Great. So, Steve, like, how long has it been since you got the idea to start the blog, and you've been actually writing as a profession, I think, for quite a while. But as far as the blog is concerned, how have you been working on that?
Before starting the blog, I was leading a discussion group called Galactic Roundtable, and I fell sick. And I could no longer lead the discussion group, so we said to ourselves, all the moderators, what can we do to give Steve something to do while he's whiling away the hours? This went on for 6 months, by the way, this sickness.
Okay.
And so we started a blog. That's what we did. And it was then called the 2012 Scenario.
Right.
And I think I was mentioning to you before the show, Don, that in 2012, the fall of 2012, it was receiving about 28,000 hits. And this is a good indicator of how interest in Lightworker matters is spreading. Mm-hmm. So back in 2012, about 28,000 hits a day. Now, 330,000 hits a day. So,
wow.
People are really,
So you're getting hits from all over the world, interested in what you're writing about and all that.
Yeah. Slightly more men than women, interestingly. I would have thought that would not have been the case.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
About a half of the readers are in the United States. And then I think Canada, England, Australia.
Okay, so English-speaking places.
English-speaking. By and large, yes.
Our network is very similar to that. It's about 50% United States, and it is slightly more males than females. Like I think it's 55-45, something. I mean, at least YouTube statistics. I don't know, I don't know what it actually is because there's a lot of people that are not registered and all that.
Right.
But interest is growing. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I think that's what that statistic shows.
I think that's so true. And I think actually one of the things I'd like to start with is a quote that you had placed in the book that you had sent me to read up on the collection of your columns that you had written. But Werner Erhard, his quote. That really impacted me, and let me just read that here so we can get the discussion going. But we can choose to be audacious enough to take responsibility for the entire human family. We can choose to make our love for the world be what our lives are really about. Each of us now has the opportunity, the privilege to make a difference in creating a world that works for all of us. It will require courage, audacity, and heart. It is much more radical than a revolution. It is the beginning of a transformation in the quality of life on our planet. You have the power to fire the shot heard around the world.
Yeah, that's a wonderful quote.
So how did that impact you? I mean, is that's impacting your work every day because you chose to essentially start your book with that?
Yeah, I don't think it'd be an exaggeration to say that my work is rooted in the teachings of Werner Erhard. He's just a brilliant man. And when I first heard that quote, to make a difference in creating a world that works for all of us, I said to myself, how can a world possibly work for all of us? How could that happen? Well, I actually received the answer in about September, I know the date exactly, September 27, 2015, when that second wave of energy hit. You remember?
Right.
And I was catapulted into bliss on that date.
Okay.
If a person is in a state of bliss, it's absolutely and completely obvious how the world could work for everyone. When everyone is in the fifth dimension, when everyone is in bliss, when everyone's in transformative love, I guarantee the world will work for everyone. So that's what he was pointing at back then. He had seen this. I was going to talk about his enlightenment, but he had seen this, that the world could work for everyone, and he tirelessly put this vision out. And yes, you're right that it's been like an engine in the car for many, many years. I've
right.
got, it's pulled me forward, so to speak. And now we have the opportunity to actually create that, if not the whole of that world, at least clear a lot of brush and erect superstructure and even some buildings. The reval, the money that we get from that, from the historic bonds, from the prosperity programs and every other program, equips us now to bring that world into reality. So it's just more exciting than I can stand.
Okay, so
too excited.
when you agreed to come on the show, and I was excited about interviewing you, and I was like, oh man, I want to talk about Steve and everything that he's about. And then 2 days ago, you put out a piece that talked about dropping the ego, and
yes,
right. And I'm like, oh my
Essential.
God. Like, oh no, what am I going to talk to him about then?
Right.
We're not going to talk about the ego. But you were mentioning in that about the bliss and the transformative love.
Yes.
And this experience that you had back in September of 2015.
Yes.
And can you describe what you went through, what you experienced when you call it bliss that you were living with, so that
Sure.
the listeners can have an idea of that.
I should preface that with the mention that about 8 months before, so on March 13th, 2015, I had a heart opening, right? It happened about 3 hours before I went into a reading with Archangel Michael. And this energy started creeping up my leg, and I said, my God, what is this? And I said to myself, look, if you're in the midst of a spiritual experience, it's got to come from the mother, so just relax.
Okay.
And I went up to my heart, and it blew something out like a cannon shot, right? And from that day until September 27, 2015, I lived in this space. I say transformative love because ordinary love is, well, compared to transformative love, it's like cherry syrup versus fresh cherries. It's really it's very weak, and if I was in ordinary love, like romantic love or something, and I suddenly felt angry about something or some jealousy came up, it would sweep that ordinary love aside, right?
Right.
But when you're in transformative love, it's like you can feel, jealousy is way over there at the outskirts of my field of experience, right? Wanting to come in. But transformative love is so strong that it won't let it in. It transforms those experiences, so to speak, rather than being shoved aside by them. So I had 8 months of transformative love. Now that orients you outwards. Love flows, right? It doesn't stand still. It's got to flow somewhere, right?
Right.
It can flow to ourselves, and that, by the way, love comes up from the heart. In this whole discussion, I'm assuming that people sort of know that this love is coming up from my heart.
Yes.
Where love comes from, right? So it's got to flow somewhere. So it you have to flow it outwards. You have to flow it out to the world. So love orients you towards the world, right? So now this experience was totally eclipsed on September 27th when this experience of bliss came up. I was in my apartment and I felt the first stirrings of it, and I didn't actually recognize it. And recognizing these states is absolutely essential. They can be going on and we don't recognize it, and so it doesn't come to the forefront. It doesn't become part of our conscious awareness.
Right.
And then I got in the elevator and I was going down, and I was saying to myself, gee, I'll make this a meditation, 14, 13, well, there is no 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. And by the time I was getting to the bottom, I was actually feeling quite jovial and elevated, buoyant. And as I round the corner and turned to the left, I suddenly said to myself, this is bliss. This is what that is. This is bliss. And then it started to really billow, right?
Sure.
Crossed the street and turned the corner. And something was funny. Something about something that I did was funny. And I began to laugh. And it was in this laughing that the bliss just, went throughout my experience. And I was immersed in bliss. And I was on my way to a meeting, right? And, if I wasn't in bliss, the meeting would go okay. But being in bliss and having that meeting was really something else. I mean, the meeting went superb, which proved to me that you can have things like meetings and be in bliss.
Sure.
But bliss is different from transformative love in the sense that bliss, you just want to sit there, steeped in bliss. You're happy, you're satisfied. Oh God, it's just, it's the best feeling in the world. There's nothing like bliss except ecstasy and exaltation. But so bliss is not outgoing. So bliss does not have a person go and help people on the downtown east side or something. It just wants to sit there and appreciate itself, so to speak. Not me, but the bliss.
It's like an observational state.
Yeah, well, unless you think of enjoying the bliss as the participant.
Right.
But you're right. It does leave you in an observational state. It's very passive. So two different states.
Okay, so how long did you find yourself in what the state of bliss that you were experiencing?
For about, till early January. I actually would have to go back and find out when it was. And then it just kind of, I wasn't in bliss 24 hours of a day right straight through.
Because I was going to say, we probably wouldn't have you around. You would just
probably would have transformed
the woods or something, transformed or what have you. So we're happy you're here and the bliss ended, we hope it comes again. But on the other side, but I'm just trying to get an idea for people to understand what you went through.
My loss is your gain.
Exactly. See, right. There we go.
Yeah. Well, bliss would come about 9 in the morning and would leave about 6 or 7 at night. Right.
Okay.
And I'd never know going to sleep if it was going to come back the next day. But it did fairly consistently through this about 3 or 4 month period. And then the intervals between it began to increase. And then finally it didn't show up. And so I said, okay, well, that's, I already know that I've been told that I'll be allowed to go places and visit, but I won't be allowed to stay.
Okay.
And in addition, the experiences I have of these higher states is truncated. Like they'll, well, actually it was today that I was having an experience of a state called, that I call exaltation. And I could feel the state of exaltation, but you'd expect there to be tons of bliss and I'd be floating on the ceiling. None of that, just the exultant, just the exaltation itself. On another occasion, I had an experience of, it was apparently a 7th dimensional experience of the overself sitting in meditation, and I wasn't saying a word, and yet things were happening all around me. Things were getting done, and it was quite clear that it was coming from me, but I wasn't saying anything to anybody. And that lasted for half an hour, and then it disappeared. Now, why am I telling you that? Oh, because it lacked any bliss.
Oh.
Here's a 7-dimensional state of the overcell, and there was no bliss. And I asked Michael about this. He said, oh, no. We're not going to, lose you to the experience.
Right.
You need to remain functioning. You need to remain using words. So...
Okay. So when you mention Michael, just for those that maybe aren't aware, the Michael you speak of is...
Archangel Michael, as channeled by Linda Dillon.
Okay.
And she's there with you, or she's there through a communication tool? Like through a phone or a Skype?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, she lives in Port Lucie, near Dodon, actually,
yeah,
nearer than to us. And we do it by Skype.
Mm-hmm.
I have readings every 3 weeks. Boy, once the reval starts, they're going to be probably more frequent. But yes, and it's just been a wonderful, wonderful experience.
So that's great, Pete. So when you have these experiences, you've then been able to talk through Linda to Archangel Michael, and kind of get his feedback on what you were experiencing.
Yeah, and there have been quite a few. I called one System Restore. It was a sort of a bridging of the time in my life that wasn't very much fun back to before it started, and then kind of kicking this away, right? Mm-hmm. That happened in about 2014 or 2015, and I was able to say to him, what the heck was that? And he said, well, we really got that you were sincere about wanting to be free of the past, right? Mm-hmm. And you were at work on it, doing everything you could do, and so we decided to join in and just give it a heave-ho, right? Mm-hmm. So there's confirmation coming from the readings of just what went on, what that was.
Right.
Very interesting.
It's very interesting. So, okay, so we want to get the rest of the interview in before you bliss out or exalt out on us and all that. So we want to take full advantage of you being here. So where we're going, let's talk about this as a community, a humanity, where humanity is going. One of the things that you write about or you refer to often is Nova Earth. Is that your the workings with you and Archangel Michael and the understandings that is this Nova Earth that we're moving into?
Well, actually, Linda Dillon, her perspective, or not perspective, but the group that she works with is called the Council of Love. I call it the Company of Heaven.
Okay.
It's their collective vision. So Saint Germain, Archangel Michael, Sanat Kumara, Jesus.
Okay.
All of them are putting forth the vision of Nova Earth. For me, that's a world that works for everyone. For me, that's simply saying a fifth dimensional society.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But with this exception that our part in it is from now till Ascension. Well, actually, no, from now till disclosure. Okay. And then after that, the Galactics, our star brothers and sisters, join us and things pick up real fast. So this is between now and disclosure. That's the time when we get to show what we can do.
Okay.
After that, it'll speed up.
Okay, so collectively, that's a place that we're moving to, and we're going to be joined by the Galactics at some point in time. I have a
question. Would you call the disclosure a disclosure of the extraterrestrial existence? I mean, what's your definition of disclosure? Just some people have different sort of like takes on it in terms of what that encompasses. Can we just get a little bit more clarity on your version of it? Sure. Is it like the event, or is it not the event? Is it something else, or
Michael keeps telling me there isn't going to be one event. There's going to be a number of events, and each will lead into the other. Some are precursors of other events.
Okay.
But to answer your question, Now we get into my lack of memory.
Okay.
What was your question again?
When you said that up until disclosure, we are sort of like, we're working on, helping the
Yes.
shift take place, and after disclosure,
What
the
is
extraterrestrials
disclosure?
take place. I mean, is it
Yeah.
based on specifically on the extraterrestrial presence?
Well, first of all, I think your question was what would disclosure be? So
Yeah.
disclosure would be the acknowledgement of the existence of other species in the universe, and the acknowledgement that they're here.
Okay. And
around
that's
the
on like a
Earth.
planetary scale rather than just,
Yeah. Well, any
us
announcement.
here. Okay, announcements is more the closer
Yeah.
definition that you're
Any
talking about.
announcement by any world leader would go around the world,
Right.
and that would trigger some landings. Just very very cautious landings at first, not big ships over New York City or something. So, and I don't know, it's the Company of Heaven has said that honor has been reserved for Obama. Yeah, people that Obama. May I say something
No,
about
please
Obama?
do.
Is that okay?
Yeah, completely open forum.
When Obama was elected, the cabals, bureaucrats in what Paul Ryan recently called the Fourth Estate, the civil service, agreed to do everything they could to sink anything that came from Obama's pen, any legislative program, to shred it, right? And they've done a very good job.
They've been very successful.
Yes. And we light workers have almost completely bought into it. Poor Obama's been abandoned. We don't know why he does some of the things he does, but I can tell you the Company of Heaven has not for a moment abandoned Obama. So anyways, the honor is said to have been reserved for Obama to introduce them. But I have no idea what. I think they're waiting for the reval first. It's a precursor of disclosure, because we are going to build things. We're going to resolve situations like the Syrian refugees in Europe and everywhere else.
Okay, so the when you talk about the reval, what does that mean to you? How does that look to you?
Well, the reval is one of several prosperity programs, several abundance programs. Others are the historic bonds, the prosperity projects or prosperity packages, et cetera, the farm claims. There's a long list of abundance programs that are going on. The reval is the reevaluation of a small number of currencies, Iraqi dinar, the Vietnamese dong, the Indonesian rupiah, the Zimbabwean dollar, I can't remember the others.
Okay.
And it's spread by word of mouth that this currency re-evaluation is going. It's certainly been spread among the lightworker community, and the intention is to have ordinary people, so to speak, buy currency, spread it around, take care of certain situations in the world. So it's it's quite purposefully, intended for that. It's intended to, how can I say it, to spread the money to more than just the 1%.
Okay.
And the currency holders who exchange their currency and get a quite large amount for it are expected to share some of it with various programs or projects or whatever, just help society. So the reval is that specifically, individuals cashing in holdings of foreign currency and making quite a spectacular profit.
So this is like buying the Iraqi dinar. People that are buying that makes no sense to those on CNBC or what have you, and then once we reach a point where the reval goes into effect, the value of those dinars goes up considerably. The people who have purchased those or these other currencies then those that are considered part of consider themselves part of the light worker community, then have got almost a mandate to assist people in progressing out of the state that they're in at that point in time.
Yeah, they don't have to assist people. They can go and buy a chateau in France. Everybody has free will.
Right.
I can say that the Company of Heaven has said on 2 occasions or more that those who want to assist society and those who do a good job of hydrating or irrigating society with their funds will be getting more. And Archangel Michael has said that very clearly on 2 occasions. They're watching Lightworker performance. So there was something I wanted to say about something you said earlier. No, I couldn't possibly recover it.
That's okay. That's good.
Impossible. Yeah.
So there are other projects that are going on around the world that so this is not in conflict with. I mean, I don't know much about the financial end of any of this, but Swiss Indo, for example, I've read about. There's the week in, week out stuff that Ben Fulford writes about that talks about gold and that sort of thing. So this is all going on at the same time in order to free humanity from the position that we've been in for centuries, as far as an economic position.
Yes, and when one talks about this that you're referring to, the reval, it's kind of interesting because it's a pipeline going to the people, so to speak, and just as you pointed out, there are different people who are inputting. Swiss Indo, Chinese elders, the British, European royals, the reclaimed Illuminati money, reclaimed Illuminati treasure that the Illuminati sank in battleships off the Philippines. Some of it's been recovered. They've recovered historic bonds in those wrecks, and those will be, full. So gold is coming from many sources. Currency is coming from many sources. It's just this flood of abundance.
Sure.
It's not just going to come through the reval, but any number of other. There then are. So that's the coming into the pipeline.
Okay.
And then there are all the foundations and funds and what have you that are receiving the abundance and then attacking the problems globally or locally. And I joked the other day that if I said on the air that there are 2 points about this, point 1 is that by the time I reach point 2, I would have forgotten.
Okay.
So, but I think the thing I wanted to say is that there are foundations and funds and outlets, irrigation canals, so to speak, that are dedicated to projects, ending hunger, ending leprosy, ending malaria, whatever.
Right.
And then there are other funds and foundations that are directed towards individuals who are sinking under their mortgage or something, individuals who just are not making it. So there are fewer in number, foundations which are directly, targeting individuals. So
okay, so this would be essentially it's giving humanity an opportunity to see what we do with things that and the sense of abundance that we've essentially been has not been shared with us through I mean I don't want to say not our choice, because honestly we played a role in this whole thing altogether, but now the abundance is being released, and what do we do with it prior to disclosure and that sort of thing, and how do we, and if those who have got the ability to go buy chateaus in France, that's all they do with it, that kind of tells the state that humanity's in at that point in time. But if we're able to come together and work with the pollution, work with poverty, work with the hunger, situation, that sort of thing, then that puts a different light on where humanity is as a whole with all these energies that we're living through right now.
Yeah, it gives this. You could think of it this way: that this is our time. This is our time on stage. This is our opportunity to show what we can do, what we want to do, what the quality of our heart is, how much we care. Once the Galactics join us at disclosure, then probably the attention will be altogether off us.
Okay.
So, and it'll be on the Galactics and what they do. This is also giving us the opportunity to generate the collective will, to generate the willingness, the stature to treat with the Galactics without cringing or whatever, being speechless or so. So it's giving light workers the opportunity to develop leadership, especially in the area of will. That's we don't talk very much about will. It's like, oh gosh, that's a male thing and it's very bad, and people with will push you around, and well, no. But if we're going to tackle global problems, that does call for a degree of will.
Degree of will.
Yeah. So, and collective will at that.
And this is even then before we get into a debate about whether mortgages are a proper thing or whether taxes are a proper thing. You're saying, let's just pay off those mortgages, let's pay off those taxes. That's a debate for a different day and a different time. But as those abundances, the resources are released, then those decisions go into what the next round of decisions will be. And that's kind of what you're calling for the Lightworkers Congress, right? To kind of have a say-so in.
Yeah, we haven't heard about the Lightworkers Congress. I'm really excited to hear a bit more about that myself.
Yeah, that's right. It seems like the next place to go.
Well, let me make one comment about something you said, if I can remember it, and then you remind me that we were going to talk about the Lightworkers Congress.
We got it.
Yeah, good.
The chat room will keep us in. The chat room's got our back.
Yeah, right. That's good. Well, I've completely forgot what I was going to say. So let's go to the Lightworker Congress. It was an interesting thing for me after the operation that I had to have my prostate removed. I was absolutely bedridden, couldn't even move for about 2 weeks. I couldn't move. It was painful to move. And then 2 months in total when I needed to stay around the apartment and was incontinent mostly. And so I did a lot of watching of YouTube videos. And in the first couple of days, I couldn't find anything that interested me. And then gradually my attention kept going to the Second World War, which is the first war that really good, video is from, that they had filmic techniques.
And there's a lot.
Yeah, and my attention kept getting kind of focused more, and so it got focused on the Soviet side of the war. And then it got focused on 3 battles. The first one, anyways, I don't want to go into too much detail, but the point is that I kept asking myself, why am I watching this? And why I was watching this was because I was watching a historic representation of the growth of will in the Soviet people. Right? They lost 2.5 million soldiers as prisoners who were sat down in green fields and starved to death in the first 3 months of the war. 2.5 million people, right? And they turned that around, and after the Battle of Kursk, chased the Germans all the way back to Berlin. So I was watching determination, right? And to make a long story short, my own determination started to grow. And finally, at some point, I realized that my history was such that I had not activated my will. I was just sort of coasting through life, but there wasn't somebody taking a firm hand, so to speak, driving. Well, so in the next instant, of course, I recognized my will. And it really is an experience to locate it and say, oh my God, this is the throttle, this is the brake, this is the gas, whatever. Then the next step was obviously, to build collective will. I mean, if I have my own will back after all these years, then the next step is create will among lightworkers. And that's when the Lightworker Congress came into my attention as an idea. Not one that I was going to do. Now, I know full well that if you suggest an idea and you're not willing to do it, the idea dies within a week, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I knew that, but I thought, well, I'll try. See if somebody takes it.
They said yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How'd that work for you, Steve?
It didn't work at all.
Yeah.
Within a week, I said, okay, I'll take the idea and run with it. And I just had a reading with Michael yesterday and asked him about the idea. And he said, oh, yes, Jesus issued a call to action. And I don't know if, oh, yeah, that was through Linda, not John Smallman. And so you are taking action. And so he said, you have three choices. You can find somebody to head it up, fund them, and away they go. Pardon me. You can take it under the Michelangelo Fund and build it and then let it go. And I can't remember the third one. I think, yeah, right. I think it was that you could keep it out of the Michelangelo Fund, but train them and get them going, and they're already going. The Lightworker Congress would do three things. One, it would provide a holding tank for lightworkers to send in contributions. Mm-hmm. And two, it would be a forum for discussion of how to use these funds to attack global problems, and then to make decisions and to send that money out. And three, to provide directory services and various spreadsheet services where you keep track of, this and this is happening there, and this and this is happening there, and this is a list of organizations which, if you only have $1 million or something, you might want to send it to them. Mm-hmm. So that's what it does. I'm oftentimes initiatives like this get criticized because, say, they use 90% of their donations for the projects and 10% for costs. Somebody comes along and says, well, it should have been 2%, right, or whatever.
Like nonprofits get criticized, yeah.
That's right. So I am going to pay all the expenses of the Lightworker Congress. Everything, it's going to come from the Michelangelo Fund, so they don't have to touch the other funds. Those funds.
What is the Michelangelo Fund?
The Michelangelo Fund is a fund I'm starting.
Okay.
My currency. It's about creating projects, and its primary project is the Gender Equality Project, which is about ending gender inequality and persecution on the planet.
Oh, awesome.
And then there's the Vancouver Project, which is about leveling the playing field in Vancouver as a demonstration project. End leprosy, Nova Europe for the Syrian refugee situation. Can't remember all the rest. Creativity project that will fund artists and inventors and people on the edge who don't usually get funding.
Oh, so, awesome!
But it's my own. It's my own.
So that's your own creation.
Personal experiment in generosity. Yeah.
Okay. And so you're going to use that to fund the Congress.
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. It's going to be fun.
So at the moment, it's conceptual only.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Don't send email. Cannot handle email
but
right now.
If people do want to give feedback, what's the best place for people to give feedback, or maybe, or want to carry on that conversation? Where would people start in order to be at least associated with your side of it, or your involvement in it?
Well, it's funny. We've had discussion groups, but they've come and gone. Mm-hmm. Connected to the blog. I'd suggest they go to the goldenageofgaia.com and use the Contact Us form. Already the number of emails that have come in about the Lightworker Congress is far in excess of my ability to answer.
So you need
I
you're looking for volunteers maybe at this point to maybe
actually
organize that perhaps?
um, no,
No.
because working with volunteers is itself time intensive, and
Sure.
I don't even have the time for that. No, what I'm asking is for people to wait till after the reval,
Okay.
and then we'll
Perfect.
have staff all over the place, because
Right.
I mean it's all job creation, right? I'm
Yeah.
happy to I'm happy to hire and create jobs and all the rest of it. So
I think I remember you wrote that the Congress you would like to see to meet about 3 months after the reval, right?
it'll probably be closer to well, yeah, 4 to 6 months, probably
Four to
four.
6 months. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, I think. Once we hire the person that's going to head that up, I guess we'll have more insight
Right.
into that. Yeah.
Okay. So can you give us an idea, like on the Vancouver project you mentioned? 'Cause you live in Vancouver.
Yes.
What are the type of things that you would do with the Vancouver project that could probably be duplicated in other cities around the world?
Well, first of all, I was going to say we'll end homelessness. That work is already well in progress.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Hmm.
there's a very enlightened group that has been, and including wealthy people who have contributed. The government's matched them, and they're building homes for the homeless right and left. So,
Hmm.
but we would contribute a tremendous amount more funding, and we'd end the problem of homelessness in Vancouver. The next step for me would be single mothers, get them irrigated. Um, I'm not quite sure how to go about this because I calculated what it would cost to give each single mother in Vancouver $30,000, say,
Hmm.
and the figure was way beyond anything I could possibly meet. It was just astronomical. So we're going to have to target rather than, you know,
Hmm.
be blanket in our treatment of things. Um,
At this
so
time, though, the goal is to get the ideas out there, though, too, right? You're going to have, because as you bring more people into this after the reval, then you'll have more resources and that sort of thing, and ideas and different ways to look at things.
Mm-hmm.
yes, yes.
Um,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on debt forgiveness? And does that have you heard from the Council of Love on that, or how or where that might fit into revow versus disclosure, and sort of like where does that fit in that overall timeline, or if it is at all?
Well, debt forgiveness is actually, it's not debt forgiveness. If I bought a car and it was purely voluntary, I'm not sure that debt will be forgiven. That's
Right.
Matthew Ward who pointed that out, that
Okay.
we're not undermining the economic system, but that's kind of a gray area. We don't really
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, but certainly debt forgiveness of nations and debt forgiveness of anything that was illicit or illegal, like many mortgages are not overblown, but I forget what inflated.
Right.
And there's all kinds of criminality associated with them, the tranching of the mortgage. Those things will be wiped off. And there's no harm to anybody from that because the original mortgage is buried somewhere and they've sold it. And
Right.
anyways, but it's interesting that in every conversation I've had with either Archangel Michael or Saint Germain, they've always said, I've said to them, should the Michelangelo Fund be relieving debt? Oh yes. Even though debt forgiveness will be a part of NESRA, it will
Mm-hmm.
be a part of the new order, so to speak, that will come about as a result of NESRA. Get them out of debt now. Allow them the
Hmm.
experience of being debt-free now. So
Mm-hmm.
you would think they'd say, no, well, in a year or so or a few months or whenever NESRA is going to come in, that all debt will be forgiven, so forget about it. But no, they don't. They don't say that. They want people to experience freedom. It's important to prepare them for disclosure, that they have a big smile on their faces and
Hmm.
feel that something has been done for them and the future is promising.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
So you're talking about more an optimistic life in general for everybody.
That's what, yes. That's what the reval is designed to bring about, an optimistic
removing the burden that so
for
many
as many
are
people
buried under. Yeah.
And that disclosure is more suitable after the fact. Or stages after disclosure is more suitable, when basically a lot of affairs around the world have sort of been taken care of by the people themselves.
Yes. My brother and his wife went to a concert. I think it was a concert. But before that, they had dinner in a hall just next to the concert hall. And he said that really set them up for the concert, right? Having dinner before. This is like that. This is dinner before the concert, and designed to have everybody happy and full and ready for the next act, so to speak.
Going back to your discussions on the state of bliss, not even exaltation, and the expressions
Ecstasy.
of love. Where do you feel that those are a part of this process? I mean, do you feel that they are necessary components, or are they just certain experiences that some people will have? Or, I mean, you shared that, but sort of like, how does that tie in? Or do you even see a tie-in? I'm not sure.
Oh, yes. Well, bliss is the fifth dimension.
Okay.
So I think what they've done is they've given a journalist a taste of the fifth dimension, and expecting that he will write about it, and of course I have.
Okay.
So it just gives people something to aim for. It gives people something to kind of entertain in their minds, because it is recognition. Bliss is there a lot more than people suspect, I think, but they don't recognize it. It takes sort of, that's bliss, and then it's as if it was in the next room until that point. And when I said that's bliss, it's like I opened the door and it came into this room. That's a fair analogy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's bliss in the next room. Oh, hello, bliss.
Yeah.
So I think
I was going to say my interpretation of bliss is very similar to yours, in terms of the sensation of, and also where your focus is as well, because there are various levels of focus, like where your attention is, and those lead to different things, like exaltation as a step beyond bliss, or that sort of like Christ conscious love. That's a very palpable. Yeah, it's like everyone is under the umbrella of my love, equally, and and in a high level of separation from things like anxieties and fears and whatnot. But regarding the attraction of it, I believe, yes, I think talking about it, because it does occur, like maybe sometimes just a moment, sometimes just biting into a chocolate bar, you have a moment of zen, and then it's gone after you're done the chocolate bar.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but
jump on board.
Yeah, right. Well, what I mean is some people miss that there's an opportunity there to recognize. And chocolate happens to be one of those common ones that I think some people might actually identify with. And sugar, I don't know, and I'm not touting those as like everybody go eat sugar and chocolate or something, but moments that can be witnessed and sort of like taken another step in there, and like step into that. I was in an ashram much earlier in my life, and one of the things, and I was a child actually, and one of the things they did to sort of like help the children learn how to meditate, or to like gain context of being calm and centered, was they gave every child a Hershey kiss. And what they did is they asked you to not chew it, but to leave it on your tongue and just move it around. And kids don't have the patience to do that. But the journey was clear that the chocolate was more delicious if it was extended. It was like you were eating lots of chocolate over time. And I still chew my Hershey Kisses, but it definitely left an impression over this idea of like, it sometimes takes some effort to sort of step outside of the patterns of how you normally would act and move on beyond your moments of bliss.
Yes. It's interesting what you said earlier. You can enter into bliss by the portal of a blissful moment or a blip. And I actually experimented with all the ways I entered into bliss, and oh God, there was maybe 10 or 11 of them. Things like reading a biography of a saint, or listening to music, or all kinds of portals. Once you'd experienced bliss and the door was open, so to speak, then in the morning when you weren't blissful, there were all kinds of ways of becoming so again. They are doors, these little blissful blips are doors in. The thing about bliss is that it is what we're going to be experiencing in the fifth dimension. So,
like a normal, like it's a normal activity.
In the fifth dimension, everybody is blissful. There was one other thing I wanted to mention about these things. We tend to think of things as a ladder. So there's love, and a higher experience is bliss, a higher experience is ecstasy, and a higher blah blah.
Sure, vibrational ladder. Yeah.
Yeah, but actually, what I've found is that each of these is a discrete, not quite path, but a discrete road. Let's call it that. A discrete road into enlightenment. If you had an experience of love, and then you went deeper into love, and deeper into love, and deeper into love, that would carry you up the enlightenment ladder. Same with bliss, the same with ecstasy, the same with any of the divine qualities, trust, forgiveness, compassion. You went deep. So my idea of enlightenment has changed from this, ladder up from love to bliss to ecstasy to exaltation and the rest of it, to going deeper into either transformative love or bliss, doesn't matter which, but just going deeper and deeper and deeper into it.
And for me, I noted specifically that it doesn't necessarily mean it's easy when you first discover something you think is a pathway into it. Like the path of forgiveness is, when you start that journey, it looks daunting. I felt great those moments where forgiveness worked, and it all turned out, good in the end. But like preparing for forgiveness, it doesn't mean it's just an easy path. Just like, as much as I would love to be able to just, suck on Hershey Kisses and enter bliss, I still like chewing my chocolate. Like it's going to be a long road if I want to go through it that way. And intentions are, are how you're going to find a way into the journey. Like the intention without a full expectation of how it's going to turn out, I would say.
Well, it's interesting what you're saying right now, because I like to think of the journey as having two sides. You remember the old classical authors used to talk about the via positiva and the via negativa, right? The positive way and the negative way. The positive, and so I'm taking those terms but giving them new meanings, right? So it has nothing to do with what they said about it.
Okay.
But for us, the via positiva is just what we've been talking about. You catch a moment of bliss and you fan the flame, so to speak, and all of a sudden you're in a transformed state. The via negativa is cleansing ourselves of our core issues and the conditioning that is the residue of the core issues. Like we have a core issue, we reach a conclusion, life is tough, nobody cares about me, blah, blah, blah. And we make a decision, I'm not going to care about anybody else either. I'm going to keep to myself, and I'm not going to come out of my room, and to hell with the rest of the world.
Sure.
And so there's the core issue, but there's also this residue, this habitual response, the programming, conditioning, whatever you want to call it. So the journey forward is both. It's both doing the positive things of romancing bliss, romancing love, inviting them, creating your life being friendly to them, etc. And then washing oneself of one's baggage.
I fully agree with that personally. I know a lot of people want to stick with the path of optimism and look away from negativity that keeps showing up at their door. And I would say, if it keeps showing up, especially if it keeps showing up, that's a sign that, where you want to go, that's in the way. You can't carry that with you where you want to go. Like where you want to go, you'll have to find a way of addressing that, through forgiveness and through making it, sort of like a miracle in your own sense of like, it's not going to be what it was, but trust that, bringing your best, forward is the only real way to do that. A lot of people ask me like, how do I practice forgiveness? How do I get to be a good person? You just try. You just have that intention. You do your best. It may not even be that great the first time you try, but it's almost like life is timeless. Like forgiveness doesn't have an expiry date. Like you can always do better, and come around and do better. And it's not even just forgiveness. Sometimes it's asking for forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I know forgiveness is just one of them, but it's like we have a lot of that negativity that holds us back in our memories. Programming is a good way of putting it, as the subconscious follows routines that are unsuccessful in a fifth dimensional reality because it's too polaric. In fifth dimensional reality, there's freedom on every doorstep, and if you're putting principles of how things should be, you just won't see fifth dimensional. Therefore, you can't live a fifth dimensional life. I think a lot of people look at maybe the law of attraction and basically suggest that there is no healing that of your past that goes through in that journey, and I would say heal your past, because yes, you'll be forced to heal it if you want to go through just positive. The negative will present itself as part of the journey there.
Well, and if you look at what they say about Ho'oponopono, which is about healing an event in the past, and then how that then changes even other events in the past as it moves, that energy moves to your current present, and that's exactly what you're talking about here. With like some people will ask me about synchronicities, for example. It's like, why don't I get more synchronicities? Why don't I experience that more? As a way to help guide me or what have you. And I say, this is the thing. The to me, for example, we need oxygen to live, and nature doesn't just have like a little invisible cherub with a Nerf shotgun loaded with oxygen molecules, firing them at you. And if you turn your head, it bounces off your cheek and you die because you didn't breathe it. No, so nature has us surrounded by oxygen. So that unless you go deep in a cave or underwater where there's not going to be a lot of oxygen, you can breathe. And I said, nature surrounds us with synchronicities too. The point of that is, though, we don't question the oxygen. We don't ask, why am I not receiving oxygen? Because we're so used to it. The synchronicities, they're all around us. It's just that we're not always observant of it. And I kind of, listening to your discussion about bliss, it's the very same thing. I think we're surrounded by bliss.
Yes.
And it's just a matter of accepting that and saying, yes, I am surrounded by bliss. I'm not looking for that 9 o'clock tomorrow morning jolt, or I'm not waiting for this moment that I think, because some saint in some century, hundreds of years ago had this experience and I want to have that. I'm not waiting for that. Find the bliss that's there, and then more will be revealed to you, just as more synchronicities will be revealed to you.
Sure.
And more chocolate will be revealed to you, if that's what
that's right.
Chew your chocolate, they'll make more. Trust me.
Yeah.
We have to factor in the denseness of 3D, especially I don't know whether in 3D or 4D it still feels dense to me. Well, actually, no, it doesn't. But anyways, I once had an experience in which I, in my imagination or whatever it was, could see I saw a representation of 3D communication, and it was like a band, and it was kind of grayish, and it looked like a river of sludge. And it was, this complaint and exclamation and just goo going past me. And it just reminded me that the third dimension is very dense. You know, you think about bliss in the third dimension, just imagine a person trying to jump up in the air in an atmosphere that's 3 times as dense as ours, right? They kind of go like this, and they wouldn't go even an inch off the ground, right? Well, us trying to experience bliss in the third dimension anyways is pretty difficult because we're just so massive, you know, dense and slow moving, and so you can't really jump up and be buoyant, you know, in the third dimension.
Right.
When I've been working on my core issues, oh God, I don't know. Well, anyway, since 1975 or something, I don't know.
Welcome to the club, Steve.
Yeah, no. Our generation has, right?
Yeah.
And oftentimes when I've emerged from something really big or some really dense behavior or something, the place I end up in is just normal. And I'm so flabbergasted that I've emerged from all this anger and all the rest of it, and I'm just normal. That's all. But if you think about it for a sec, the ascended state, the level of enlightenment associated with the ascended state is called Sahaja Samadhi. Right? Sahaja just means natural. Ascension is just our natural state. It's like once we remove all the core issues, like this, once we remove all that and then pull out all the strands of the conditioning, demolish the constructed self that we built and ship that off to somewhere else, then we're just left normal and natural.
That's what it is.
If we really got that, you know, that we just end up in this normal, natural state like an innocent little baby, you know, like they have to be like children to enter the kingdom of heaven.
It's so true. Well, Cryon channeled a parable through Lee Carroll. It's called the Parable of the Tar Pit, where everybody is living in this tar pit, and it's just black, it's dirty, it's grime, and as soon as you start moving yourself higher vibrationally, you start leaving the tar pit, and all of a sudden now you're being noticed. Everybody else is noticing. They're pulling at you to get you back down to their level, and yet it's still and you're moving more freer, and you're not confined by the tar pit, and yet it's still a struggle because this is something very, very different for you. You know, in that sense.
I actually have a friend whose other friends are trying to pull her back. And gosh, it's really presenting her with a very difficult problem. She doesn't want to go back, so to speak. So I get what you're saying.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to.
Yes.
Can I share something, a commentary that I'm getting from the Pleiadians at the moment on this subject?
Please. Sure.
It just took me a quick moment because I was giving you guys more attention than them. Okay. So, in their society, at large, difficulty would not be considered difficulty from our point of view. It'd be considered, awesome. Like, I would take that over, what we have. And in many ways, it's not that they don't still struggle. Right? They still are working things out. They're still working on adjusting their beliefs and adjusting for more suitability given certain conditions. It's that they identify with flexibility. They identify, and that's kind of what they describe fifth dimensional reality, which is very normal, as a species that can expand the stars. They need to, they're not self-destructive, you see. And so they find this balance between one another that allows each other's expansion just as it suits, given a situation. Now, in this, what they're saying is, sometimes somebody is in trouble, and they're noticing humans, sometimes they say, I'm not getting involved, that's debasing my vibration to go and give a beggar money or something like this, right? But in fact, they know that everything is purposeful. Like, you don't live life without something presenting you precisely something important to you. So
Yes.
given opportunities of supporting like lower vibrational issues, like just helping someone, does not mean that it's out of line with regard to the greater story. When people witness or focus on that being an issue, that's when you get lots of people showing up to try to get you to pay attention at least once. So it's as if from there, what they're saying is that you're only going to have people trying to pull you down if you're ignoring something over and over and over and over and over again. Right?
Sure.
Like only exaggerating it for the sake of, bringing it to a point of realization that it is part of your future, to find a way in, supporting. It's almost as if one of the greater reasons they identify that heaven is absolutely a real place is because heaven is here to help. Do they need to? No, they don't. But they're there in order to expand themselves through the discovery process of that which is a new thing to heal. It's almost like finding new ways to heal. Are they obsessed with healing? Almost to the point of, like, what are you, like, manifesting problems in order to heal them? They're not. It's more along the lines of let it, if it steps into your life, it's a part of your journey, and to find a relaxed, maybe blissful state with it. I don't know if that's what they mean, but it's something along that. It's like, let more life show you what is taking place and that you can participate with. Things get exaggerated when you need a stronger sign of synchronicity and purpose than otherwise.
Okay.
The Pleiadians live this normally. This is the natural perspective from fifth dimension. They don't ignore third dimension at all. In fact, third dimension is very valuable in terms of a continuing learning cycle that they can review in areas that they wouldn't normally. They never thought about helping a child in Africa, say. But, if that comes up in context and there's ease in that journey, then they learn from that without being wholly consumed with, we need to, save every child in Africa, that sort of thing.
Yes.
Anyhow, they just wanted to share that relative perspective because they felt that connected a bunch of dots of what we've been talking about.
Yeah, it does. It's interesting what you said about their sort of paradigm being flexibility. I've always thought that the word I use, which is very close to flexibility, is flow. That flow was the paradigm of the fifth dimension. Flexibility is another nice word. I like that.
Well, that allowing is part of flowing too, I think. That's what they're
Yes.
saying. So yes, so like
as opposed to resistance or digging in or
right.
or manipulation or rejection or all those
they
games
see
that we play.
Yeah, they see life
I got a long
as everything is synchronistically purposeful.
Yes,
But
indeed. Yes,
it only seems exceptional, when it stands out in areas of like extreme luck or improbability and things like that, which is helpful to begin with, but eventually they say you end up living entirely in this synchronistic environment that is a form of guidance from parts of you that are not identifying with the physical.
Yeah, well, I understand what you're saying. Another aspect of it that's interesting, when I was in Bliss, but also in Transformative Love, problems disappeared. There was no such thing. There's a dynamic in the concept of problem that doesn't exist on. How can I say it? It's so difficult to put into words. You remember Einstein said you can't solve a problem at the level which was created.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in that goo of the third dimension, you can't. There's very few problems you can solve at all because you can't develop the will to do it. You can't create very well when you're that dense. In the fifth dimension, the emotional content of problems is, first of all, absent. You're in bliss. So, I mean, even if a situation comes up and it needs some adjustment of some sort, it's not viewed as a problem because you're in bliss. There are no problems when you're in bliss. It's like, oh, go down this road. No, oh, okay, go down this road. Oh, okay, that's fine. Flexibility, right? I mean, bliss enables flexibility. That's for sure, because it's okay with you to go down road 1 versus road 2, or road 2 versus road 1. You're in bliss. What do you care? It's like the journey is equally satisfying either way. So problems just drop right out, and all you have are answers to various situations. I mean, they cease to be problems, and they're just situations. So
they want to share that connection real quick with regard to your description of will, as they were saying it. They're saying most of our world is interconnected in the way that we we interpret what's right and wrong from one another. Like we live the collective conscious decision-making machine, right? And will is that place where you separate to just that level of degree where you can actually have new ideas and step into new, realities, possibilities, and choices, because you are a person rather than identified with the mire of how things have always been. And so it's ironic, they say, for the Pleiadians, is that they have expressed this to such degrees that they have no idea what they're doing anymore, right? Like,
wait a minute. You say they have expressed this to such. What is this?
This ability to realize their own will and choice.
Right.
That in many cases they wonder what is creative any longer. Everything is essentially a balance journey of creativity, without personally feeling like bringing it forward. Everyone is almost like respected equally for their will, and it's like a soup of a journey that looks like bliss, in hindsight, when everyone's in that place. Like will almost is a non-issue when the bliss state exists, and the bliss state exists because everyone is respecting everyone's will. Like no one's doing anything wrong, right? Everyone is just in their journey. Just like, ants are doing what they're doing on an anthill, they don't fight each other to get in front of each other, you're doing it wrong or you're bringing back the wrong resources. You're just doing your thing.
Yeah. The way Werner used to describe it was that they do what works, and what they do works. And if everybody's in the blissful state, I can well see that they would be doing what works, and what they do would work. But again, bliss is the kicker. It's so, well, it's like, I can't think of an analogy in relationship to our everyday consciousness, but it's just as if our reality was blasted open and we were totally satisfied, just totally satisfied with where we were after that. I wanted to say something about...
good example. That's not easy to describe.
All right. The other thing about bliss that we don't think about quite as much is that it enables knowledge. Remember, Jesus said, I will bring you the blissful comforter who will bring all things to remembrance. Bliss does. Bliss does bring all things to remembrance. When I had my vision in 1987, which was the entire journey from God to God of a single soul, right?
Okay.
I was just immersed in bliss. And the bliss allowed me to look at this wordless tableau, because there was no words attached to this vision. Nobody said, I am God the Father, and I am God the Son, and I am the Holy Spirit. Nobody said that, but I immediately knew that was, the Father, and this is the child, and that's the mother, so to speak, Holy Spirit. Because of bliss. Bliss elevated me so much that I could just look at this whole tableau and say, okay, I see, I understand that part. Yeah, okay. Where did this little star go, and all of a sudden I was transported to the area of the universe where it went. And on and on, oh yeah, that's the Holy Spirit. These are lifetimes in matter. That was an experience of enlightenment. That's another experience of enlightenment. Oh, disappeared into the Father again. Oh, the purpose of life is enlightenment. I got it. Wow.
It reminds me of like the term for wisdom, right? Where wisdom appears to be experiential based, but it's more like from a perspective based, like a perspective of useful information. Sometimes they say experience is wisdom. Well, sometimes experience pushes you into having to master your perspective and attune that perspective. And what happens half the time after, whether you have lots of successes or lots of failures, you always get to a place, where you just nothing's going to faze you, and you have that wisdom, right?
Yes.
I think part of what is exceptional that many people are not sort of associating maybe with our era right now is that you don't have to have lots of experience to have wisdom. It's more like an ability to attune with the bliss state.
Well, and it depends on where that experience took place. So, Stephen, you and I were talking before the show about your article about the 10,000 bankers, and in what Steve wrote up was that he had received this information that 10,000 bankers had been taken from North Carolina, I think, and tried and
shipped from North Carolina to The Hague.
And were tried and executed, and of course, you've gotten a lot of information since then about the fact that this is really not true. Never happened. But even if it had happened, that would be an example of experience in a certain way, leading to a potential of wisdom that could have led to that really doesn't make sense to those of us who have moved beyond looking at things so black and white as that is. So experience, isn't really by itself just simply the precursor of wisdom.
Yeah.
Well, I actually use a kind of a model that works for me around what you're talking about right now, and that's that there are in my my model. I don't think it necessarily conforms to reality, but there's always more to learn, right? So I think there's probably more to this model than I'm seeing at the moment. But so the first kind of knowledge that we have is intellectual knowledge. It's getting an idea of something. Doesn't have a lot of power, doesn't have a lot of juice, doesn't make people join a revolution just as an idea. The second level would be the experiential. We actually, work with something or have feelings about it, or whatever it is generates an experience in us, and we're touched by it or inspired or moved or whatever. And this level of knowledge is a lot more powerful than intellectual. The third level is realization, realized knowledge, realizational knowledge. That has a lot of kick to it, a lot of juice, and that has the power to, we're going in this direction, all of a sudden we're going in that direction as a result of a realization. So I would associate wisdom with realized knowledge.
Yeah, very good.
Realizational knowledge myself. Wisdom, if you're talking about wisdom.
Yeah.
So
awesome! Wow, Julien, did we have any questions from the?
We had a lot of comments, and I sort of brought in the questions.
Okay, good.
As we were going,
and then we're getting to the end of our time here.
We are getting close to the schedule that we were shooting for, but my goodness, the conversations we've had today. I mean, it's just a small bag of. What we could definitely spend time talking about.
Oh yeah, so this could continue for a long time.
So
thanks, Bells.
So thank you, Steve, for joining us today. I mean, just a wealth of insight on so many things.
Thank you.
Really helps, especially the conversations we've been having on our other show. And just sort of placing them in the kind of context that's somebody else's words too. sharing it in your own way. And I feel like there's a lot more that maybe people who are new in this audience that we're speaking to today can sort of like pick up on if they were to follow your work, follow your regular blog postings. From my observation, Steve's always like this. Like he's always really able to hold the bigger picture. And at the same time, he's able to forget of like, where were we? Doesn't matter. This is where we are. This is where we're going right now.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Thanks, guys. Well, best of luck with your program. This is the first one.
It's the first,
I'll be
yeah.
listening to it
Wow.
myself. Best of luck with it. It's been a pleasure talking to you two.
Thanks, Steve. I really appreciate you coming out tonight and sharing all of your insights. It's amazing.
Well done, guys.
And
Okay.
thank you to all our viewers. Please subscribe to get notifications on future live shows, such as our show on Wednesday, which is exploring the New Age. And join us again on future Saturday interview shows too. And bring your questions. Bring your questions. Thank you, and good evening.
Thank you, guys.